The morning air was sharp and cold, cutting through the isolated terrain like a warning. Serena Blake stepped from the transport van, boots hitting the gravel, with a steady rhythm that betrayed neither hesitation nor nerves. The SEAL training base sprawled before her, a collection of camouflaged structures, shooting ranges, obstacle courses, and barracks, everything designed to test the limits of the human body and mind. The mountain backdrop was imposing, jagged peaks looming overhead like silent sentinels. She inhaled the crisp air, letting it fill her lungs, and adjusted the strap of her backpack. Her uniform was flawless, pressed and neat, and for a split second, her lipstick, a soft, confident shade of rose, caught the sunlight. Heads turned immediately. A few of the trainees, mostly men with hardened expressions from previous deployments or elite training, whispered to one another. "Is that lipstick?" One muttered, his voice carrying a mixture of amusement and disbelief. Another chuckled under his breath. Some leaned against the fence, observing with casual curiosity. Serena could feel their eyes, but instead of intimidation, a quiet thrill pulsed through her veins. This was the challenge she had come for, and every doubtful glance only sharpened her resolve. She was acutely aware of the judgments being cast, yet she walked on with measured steps, each one deliberate enough to suggest confidence, but natural enough not to seem performative. The base itself was alive with noise. The distant crack of gunfire echoed from the Lev fire ranges, punctuated by the occasional shout from instructors corralling trainees through complex drills. The smell of pine and damp earth mingled with the faint acrid scent of gunpowder. Serena's senses absorbed it all, every sound, every movement, every subtle shift in posture among the other trainees. She noticed the hardened, calloused hands of some, the scars visible on arms and forearms of veterans who had clearly endured previous cycles of brutal training. Her gaze swept over them carefully, assessing not out of judgment, but out of a practiced habit. She had trained her mind for observation as much as she had trained her body for precision. As she approached the registration desk, an older, stern-faced instructor eyed her up and down. "Serena Blake?" he asked, his tone flat but piercing, a kind of voice that could make even seasoned soldiers straighten instinctively. She nodded. "Welcome," he said, scribbling notes in a thick ledger before handing her a stack of documents to sign. The paper felt ordinary, mundane, yet the act symbolized entry into a world that would demand every ounce of endurance, intellect, and resilience she possessed. Serena glanced around as she signed, noting the subtle but telling dynamics of the crowd. Trainees in pairs or small groups exchanged wary looks. Some smirked openly, others whispered behind cupped hands. It was clear that many were sizing her up not as a competitor, but as a curiosity. She could almost hear the running commentary. Can she handle the physical strain? Will her focus falter under pressure? How long before reality catches up with her confidence? Each whispered doubt was like fuel, igniting a deeper determination. Serena's lips curved into a faint, knowing smile. She knew the reality of her training history, her marksmanship awards, and the hours she had logged mastering precision under pressure. What they did not yet know, and would soon learn, was that experience had taught her patience and strategy, and she thrived under scrutiny. The day's schedule began with an orientation walk around the base. Serena kept pace with the group, noting every obstacle, climbing walls, tire courses, simulated river crossings, and areas marked for tactical drills. Her companions, largely men with muscular builds and military tattoos, occasionally glanced at her with a mixture of skepticism and mild amusement. A few muttered comments just loud enough for her to hear. "I hope she brought a mirror for the mud," one said under his breath. Serena didn't respond, though her eyes locked briefly with his, steady and calm. That single, unshakable gaze seemed to absorb the humor in the room, and return it as quiet authority. By mid-morning, the first physical tests began. The instructors lined the trainees up for basic endurance drills, push-ups, sit-ups, sprints, and swimming tests. Serena moved through the warm-up exercises with fluid efficiency, each motion measured yet powerful. Muscle memory guided her movements, honed over years of disciplined training. The whispers continued, some incredulous, some openly mocking, but they grew quieter as she kept pace, never lagging, never faltering. One trainee, a tall man with a shaved head, smirked and muttered, "Guess lipstick doesn't weigh you down," half in jest, half in astonishment. Serena merely nodded subtly, acknowledging the observation without a word. Lunch was served in the mess hall, a crowded utilitarian space buzzing with conversation and undercurrents of tension. Serena picked a seat near the edge of the room, giving herself space to observe. Around her, groups formed with subtle hierarchies. Jokes, insults, and challenges flew freely. Some of the more experienced SEALs teased openly, assessing reactions. "Lipstick in the field," one joked, loud enough for the table to hear. Heads turned, laughter followed. Serena set her tray down, her demeanor relaxed yet alert. She had learned long ago that confidence was most effective when quiet and authority could be expressed without speech. She didn't rush to defend herself. The day was young, and the real test would be in action. After lunch, the instructors led the group to the firing range. It was time to prove oneself, to let skills speak louder than appearance. As the group approached, Serena's heartbeat quickened, not from fear, but from anticipation. The metallic scent of gun oil, the dry tongue of sand and dust, and the rhythmic clatter of spent shells hitting metal targets created a symphony of controlled chaos. She set up her rifle carefully, each movement deliberate and precise, checking sights and grip with meticulous attention. Around her, others adjusted hurriedly, their smirks replaced with concentration as they realized that this phase demanded focus, and mockery could only carry them so far. Before the first shots were fired, Serena allowed herself a brief internal reflection. She had trained for this moment her entire life. The hours at dawn, the cold sweat of long-range drills, the quiet isolation of marksmanship practice. It wasn't just about hitting targets. It was about anticipation, precision, and composure. She inhaled deeply, exhaling slowly, centering herself. Around her, the other trainees lined up, eyes on the targets. Some glanced at her with renewed curiosity, sensing that the earlier laughter might have been premature. Serena smiled faintly beneath the calm mask she wore. It was only the beginning. By the time the first round of exercises concluded, it was clear to everyone that Serena Blake was no ordinary trainee. Her posture, her discipline, and the subtle confidence she carried were impossible to ignore. Even before any official results were announced, the energy in the room shifted. Laughter and whispers of doubt were replaced by wary attention, and a quiet tension began to build. The first impression had been crafted serene, poised, and ready. The SEALs may have laughed at her lipstick, but by the end of the morning, they had no choice but to acknowledge that beneath that subtle rose hue lay a force not to be underestimated. The day concluded with a short briefing and assignment of bunks. Serena walked toward her quarters, her boots crunching again on the gravel. The sun had climbed higher, illuminating the rugged landscape that would challenge them in ways no one could yet predict. She paused briefly, glancing back at the training field. The men who had laughed were still there, some shaking their heads in disbelief, others silently watching. Serena adjusted her backpack, her lips curving slightly once more. The first day was over, but the journey had only begun. In her mind, she replayed every observation, every glance, every whispered doubt. Each one was a step toward proving that skill, precision, and quiet confidence would speak louder than any superficial judgment. And in that moment, Serena Blake felt a thrill unlike any she had known. This was her arena, and she was ready. The mess hall buzzed with energy. The smell of fried eggs, burnt toast, and strong coffee mingling with the faint scent of sweat and gun oil. Serena Blake carried her tray calmly, her posture upright, every movement deliberate, as though her presence alone demanded attention. Around her, the other trainees had settled into cliques, familiar with each other from previous cycles, their banter confident and unrestrained. Whispers darted through the air like nervous birds, some bold enough to be audible, others subtle, carried on half-smiles or raised eyebrows. Serena could hear the murmurings without needing to strain her ears. Lipstick in the mud? She won't last an hour. Did she even think she belonged here? She chose a seat at the edge of the room, close enough to observe, but far enough to avoid becoming the center of ridicule, at least for now. Trainees eyed her as she passed, some smirking, others exchanging glances that spoke volumes without words. One man, broad-shouldered with a shaved head and a cocky grin, leaned back in his chair and whispered to his friend, "Think she even knows how to hold a rifle?" His companion snorted softly, shaking his head, amusement lacing the sound. Serena let her lips curve into the faintest smile, acknowledging nothing while storing every nuance in her mind. It wasn't the first time she had walked into a room of skeptics, and it certainly wouldn't be the last. She had learned to thrive in these environments, using observation as much as skill to gain an edge. She noted body language, tone of voice, even breathing patterns. Confidence could be feigned, fear could be hidden, but subtle tells nervous hands. Quick glances, shifting weight revealed the truth. Already she could tell which men were leaders in training, which were aggressive but undisciplined, and which might crumble under the smallest pressure. Every whisper against her wasn't a distraction. It was information. As she unpacked her tray, a group of trainees nearby exchanged louder commentary. "I bet she carries a compact mirror instead of ammo," one joked, the laughter rolling through their table like a wave. Serena didn't flinch. She merely glanced at them once, her gaze steady and unflinching. In that moment, something subtle happened. A quiet awareness passed through the table. Even among the brash, the impossible confidence in her eyes sparked hesitation. They had expected hesitation, maybe a flush of embarrassment, something human that would affirm their superiority. Instead, she met their gaze calmly, a silent challenge conveyed with the faintest arch of her brow. Around her, veterans of previous cycles watched silently, some curious, others skeptical but intrigued. They whispered among themselves. "She's not ordinary," one murmured. "Did you see how she walked in? Calm, collected, like she owns the place." Another shook his head. "Yeah, but calm doesn't survive a week here. Let's see how long she lasts." The room thrummed with anticipation and the subtle tension of unspoken bets. Who would falter? Who would rise? And who would shock them all? Serena could feel their assumptions, like a physical weight pressing against her. And yet, rather than burden her, it sharpened her focus. The instructor's presence added another layer of tension. Two men, grizzled and imposing, moved among the tables, observing, noting every movement, expression, and interaction. Their silence spoke volumes. They didn't need to comment. A sharp glance could unnerve a veteran or steady a faltering trainee. Serena met their eyes briefly, and for a fraction of a second, she gauged them as carefully as they were studying her. She sensed the weight of their expectations, rigorous, uncompromising, and relentless. If she wanted to prove herself, it would be through action, not words, and she intended to let her performance do the talking. Midway through the meal, a trainee leaned toward his friend, pointing subtly in Serena's direction. "You see that? She doesn't even break a sweat," the friend laughed quietly. "Yeah, but wait. These drills aren't jokes. I give her a day or two, and we'll see what's underneath all that lipstick. Serena overheard, of course. She didn't respond, not verbally, but internally. A plan formed. These men were focused on appearances. They assumed toughness was measured by muscle bulk and harsh voices. She would challenge every assumption quietly, step by step, until the results spoke louder than mockery. Serena's mind wandered briefly, reflecting on how she had reached this point. Years of early mornings, long nights at the range, countless simulations and drills, and personal sacrifices had all built a foundation of skill and discipline. She remembered the countless hours of isolating herself on shooting ranges, perfecting each stance, each breath, each trigger squeeze. She remembered the mental exercises she had practiced to maintain focus under pressure, visualizing targets before they even appeared, anticipating problems before they arose. This was more than preparation. It was mastery honed through discipline, resilience, and relentless dedication. Even as she ate, she kept one eye on the room, absorbing patterns, alliances, and the hierarchy of influence. Who held the respect of the group? Who dominated conversations? Who led through fear, and who through skill? Every whisper, every smirk, every judgmental glance added another layer to the mental map she was constructing. She wasn't just surviving the social environment. She was analyzing, strategizing, and preparing for the moment when her performance would challenge every assumption. An instructor suddenly called the room to attention, signaling that the next phase of the day would begin, the endurance tests. Trainees scrambled to grab gear, some joking nervously, others silently focusing. Serena rose smoothly, tray abandoned, her expression calm, almost serene. As she followed the group toward the obstacle course, she noticed subtle shifts in the room. Some of the men who had laughed now glanced at her differently, not with amusement, but with the faint stirrings of uncertainty. Serena didn't smile. She didn't need to. She only noted it, storing it for later, understanding that perception was a tool she could wield as deftly as any rifle or tactical maneuver. The first obstacle course was a test of both physical stamina and mental resilience. Trainees would climb walls, crawl through mud, carry heavy loads, and sprint across uneven terrain. Serena observed the initial waves of participants, noting their weaknesses, missteps, hesitation, overexertion. When it was her turn, she approached each challenge methodically. The wall climb was executed with smooth precision. The mud crawl navigated efficiently, her movements controlled yet powerful. Others struggled behind her, some muttering under their breath, others casting glances that combined frustration with disbelief. Serena moved like water over rocks, efficient, deliberate, unstoppable. By the end of the obstacle course, murmurs circulated again. The same men who had whispered and laughed at her earlier now spoke in softer tones. "She's fast," one admitted under his breath, a note of grudging respect in his voice. Another shook his head, muttering, "Okay, that's not normal." Serena noticed, again without reacting, letting their judgment shift as they would. She wasn't here for immediate approval. This was the first step in a longer journey, a subtle, relentless reshaping of perception through excellence. The day drew to a close with a briefing, instructors reviewing performance and assigning bunkmates. Serena moved with the same quiet authority she had carried all day, taking her assigned quarters while mentally reviewing everything she had observed. Her competitors' glances, the instructors' assessments, the subtle hierarchies of influence all would inform her next steps. Even the whispers, once meant to undermine her, had become a source of insight. In this environment, every small detail mattered, and Serena had the patience to notice, analyze, and act. As night fell and the base settled into quiet, broken only by distant gunfire or the occasional shout of late-night exercises, Serena lay on her bunk and reflected on the day. She had arrived underestimating no one, yet she had been underestimated by everyone. That fact alone was fuel. Her lipstick, once a point of ridicule, had become a symbol of contrast, softness paired with precision, femininity paired with skill. It was a reminder that appearances could deceive, and that true capability was revealed in action, focus, and quiet determination. By the time sleep came, Serena Blake had already begun plotting the path ahead. The whispers of doubt would continue, but so would her preparation, her observation, and her mastery. The first day had ended, but the real battle, the one to earn respect, break barriers, and demonstrate her unmatched skill, was just beginning. The morning sun burned through a thin layer of fog, casting long shadows across the firing range. The air carried the familiar metallic tang of gunpowder, punctuated by the soft crunch of gravel under boots. Trainees lined up along the firing line, each gripping a rifle with varying degrees of confidence. The instructors, tall and intimidating figures, moved deliberately along the line, observing posture, grip, and breathing with unrelenting scrutiny. Serena Blake stepped forward, rifle in hand, her movements measured, precise, and deliberate. She had trained for countless hours to master the nuances of marksmanship, and now, under the intense gaze of both instructors and skeptical trainees, she was ready to prove her worth. The whispers started immediately. One trainee leaned toward his neighbor, voice low but sharp. "Did you see the way she walked in yesterday? Calm as a statue. Think that'll hold up under fire?" Another chuckled nervously. "Calm doesn't mean skilled. Wait until we see her shoot." Serena ignored the murmurs, her focus fixed entirely on the target downrange. She had anticipated skepticism. It was fuel for concentration, not distraction. Every heartbeat, every breath, and every minor movement had been trained to perfection. She exhaled slowly, centering herself, as the first wave of shots rang out from her peers. The sound of rifles firing echoed across the range. Some trainees performed well, others faltered under the pressure. Misaligned sights, trembling hands, and scattered bullets revealed the gulf between confidence and execution. Serena observed quietly, noting how each trainee approached the task. A few relied on brute force, trying to muscle the weapon into accuracy. Others were meticulous but overthinking, causing their shots to lag behind their intentions. The differences fascinated her. Each subtle error told a story of preparation, weakness, or overconfidence. When her turn came, she stepped forward, shoulders squared, eyes focused. Her rifle rested lightly against her shoulder, her hands steady. She took a deep breath, filling her lungs deliberately, and exhaled in controlled rhythm. The instructor gave the signal. Serena's first shot rang out clean, precise, dead center on the target. Heads turned instantly, some in surprise, others in quiet disbelief. She fired again and again, each bullet finding the intended mark with unerring consistency. Her presence commanded attention, not through volume or intimidation, but through unshakable skill. Murmurs spread among the trainees. "No way." One whispered, "That's perfect." Another shook his head, eyes wide. "She's not human." Serena, aware of their astonishment, did not change her pace. Her movements were fluid, efficient, and focused. She adjusted sights when necessary, accounting for wind and subtle shifts in stance, but never hesitated. Every action was deliberate, a testament to years of preparation. The laughter and mockery of the previous days had dissolved, replaced by a quiet, stunned respect that hummed beneath the surface. The instructors exchanged glances, noting her performance. One stepped closer, his expression unreadable. "Good form," he said simply, his voice carrying a weight of authority that silenced the room. The words were minimal, yet they spoke volumes. Acknowledgement, validation, and a subtle warning to others that this trainee was not to be underestimated. Serena nodded respectfully, maintaining her composure. She understood the power of understatement. Her skills, not her words, would shape perception and command respect. As the drill continued, other trainees attempted to match her precision, but faltered under mounting pressure. Sweat glistened on their brows, hands shook, and panic seeped into movements. Serena's calm demeanor contrasted sharply against their frantic energy. She was not just executing a skill. She was demonstrating mastery. Each shot, each adjustment, each careful breath revealed the difference between practice and excellence. Observers, including previously skeptical trainees, could not deny it. For the first time, the narrative of her as an anomaly began to shift toward recognition of her ability. By the mid-morning break, Serena had completed her assigned sequences flawlessly. The whispering had grown more intense, a mixture of awe, disbelief, and grudging respect. "Did you see that?" one muttered. "Perfect every time. She's amazing." Another shook his head. "That patch she's hiding. It's probably legit." Serena caught snippets of the conversation, but remained focused, listening with interest, but not distraction. Every word confirmed what she already knew. Perception is malleable, and skill is the ultimate arbiter. The next phase of the drill tested rapid response and tactical accuracy. Trainees moved through a series of simulated combat scenarios, reacting to changing targets, obstacles, and time challenges. Many struggled, fumbling equipment or hesitating at critical moments. Serena approached each station methodically, analyzing the situation before acting, ensuring that every movement maximized efficiency and accuracy. She was faster, smarter, and more precise than nearly everyone else. Her strategy was not just about shooting. It was about anticipation, calculation, and controlled execution under stress. Each success was a statement that reinforced her growing credibility. As the day wore on, subtle social shifts became evident. Trainees who had mocked her days before now studied her movements, mimicking technique, observing posture, and noting her timing. The same men who had whispered jokes about her lipstick now cast glances filled with tentative curiosity. Respect, earned quietly through skill and composure, began to replace the initial derision. Serena noticed it all, cataloging reactions as carefully as she tracked targets downrange. Social dynamics, she knew, were as important in a SEAL team as physical skill. The climax of the drill came in a live-fire precision challenge. Each trainee was required to engage multiple targets in rapid succession while under strict time constraints. The room fell into tense silence as the challenge commenced. Bullets rang out, echoing across the range, some hitting targets squarely, others scattering. Serena's movements were deliberate, efficient, and fluid. Her focus never wavered, even as other trainees' errors became increasingly apparent. Each shot she fired struck the intended mark, her control of breathing and stance exemplary. Instructors watched with keen interest, noting the precision and calm under pressure. When the final results were tallied, Serena's scores were not merely high, they were unmatched. Whispers erupted again, louder this time, filled with disbelief and admiration. "Unreal," one trainee muttered. "She didn't miss a single one." Another added, "I thought I was good." "I was nowhere near that level." Serena stood quietly, allowing the moment to pass without comment. She had let her skill, not her words or appearance, command the room. The transformation in perception was palpable. Laughter had vanished, replaced by quiet acknowledgement and the first seeds of genuine respect. After the drill, trainees gathered their equipment and returned to the barracks. The atmosphere was noticeably different. The same men who had laughed now exchanged looks of hesitation and curiosity, unsure how to process the performance they had just witnessed. Some approached her cautiously, offering nods or quiet congratulations. Serena accepted them with grace, understanding that trust and respect in a team environment were built gradually, earned not through intimidation, but through consistent demonstration of competence and integrity. By the end of the day, Serena had made her mark. Her presence on the firing line was no longer a novelty. It was a standard. The patch she wore beneath her jacket remained hidden, a quiet symbol of her skill and experience, waiting to reveal itself when the time was right. Even among the most skeptical trainees, the narrative had shifted. Serena Blake was no longer just a newcomer. She was a formidable competitor, a presence that demanded attention, and a reminder that excellence could not be judged by appearances alone. As night fell and the base settled into relative calm, Serena reviewed the day in her mind. Every movement, every shot, every glance she had observed, and every reaction she had noted became part of an internal map she would use to navigate the challenges ahead. The whispers of doubt had transformed into curiosity, and curiosity into tentative respect. She allowed herself a brief smile, realizing that the first step in her journey to earn the respect of the SEALs had been achieved. Tomorrow would bring new tests, higher stakes, and more complex challenges. But for now, she had proven that skill and composure were the most powerful tools in any battlefield. In the quiet of the night, Serena lay on her bunk, listening to the distant sounds of training and movement, reflecting on the subtle shift that had occurred. The first drill was more than just a test of skill. It was a demonstration of her ability to reshape perception, command attention, and turn doubt into respect. Her mind was already planning for the challenges ahead, analyzing weaknesses in the group, anticipating obstacles, and preparing to assert leadership through action rather than words. She had arrived under estimation, but she would leave commanding recognition. The sun had reached its zenith, casting harsh light across the training grounds. Sweat glistened on foreheads, dust clung to clothing, and the air carried the faint metallic tang of spent shells from the morning drills. Serena Blake moved with the same measured composure she had displayed all day, each step deliberate, every motion economical. The other trainees had finished the morning sessions, but the energy in the air remained tense. Whispers still circulated, albeit now tinged with awe rather than ridicule. Those who had laughed at her lipstick earlier now studied her with a mixture of curiosity and uncertainty, sensing there was more beneath the surface than a mere appearance suggested. Serena approached the tactical evaluation area, where a small group of instructors were assessing performance and progress. Her rifle slung casually across her back, she adjusted her jacket slightly, unaware or perhaps fully aware that a patch peeked just beneath the sleeve. The embroidered words were simple, yet commanding. Elite Marksman. It was a title earned, not given a symbol of skill, honed through years of discipline, competitions, and relentless training. The moment her shoulders shifted, revealing the patch, the reaction from nearby trainees was immediate and electric. Heads turned. Eyes widened. Murmurs, once subdued and mocking, rose into audible astonishment. The group of men who had been the loudest critics just days ago froze mid-step. A trainee who had previously smirked openly at Serena's appearance whispered under his breath, disbelief clear in his tone. "No, that can't be right." Another leaned toward him, voice low but tinged with awe. She's legit." It was the kind of revelation that made even seasoned trainees pause and reassess their assumptions. The laughter that had once filled the training grounds evaporated, replaced by the quiet hum of recognition and a subtle shift in group dynamics. Serena didn't announce the patch. She didn't need to. Its presence alone commanded attention, carrying with it the authority that years of skill and achievement had earned. The instructors, too, took notice, noting her performance and visible credentials. One of the grizzled veterans stepped closer, eyes narrowing slightly as he studied her posture and expression. "Elite marksmanship," he murmured, more to himself than anyone else. His tone carried the weight of acknowledgement, a quiet validation that spoke louder than any public praise could. Serena met his gaze briefly, a faint smile playing at her lips, acknowledging without arrogance, respecting the gravity of the moment. The effect on the trainees was immediate. Whispers grew louder, though tinged with hesitation now. "She's serious," one muttered. "That patch. It's national level, isn't it?" Another shook his head slowly, unable to hide the mixture of astonishment and respect. The laughter that had accompanied her arrival now seemed naive in retrospect. The very symbol she had worn quietly under her jacket had rewritten the narrative in an instant. The SEALs had laughed, but now they were forced to confront reality. Serena Blake was not just capable. She was exceptional. As the morning progressed, the tactical exercises continued, but the energy in the air had shifted palpably. Where once there had been casual mockery and underestimation, there was now a careful, almost tentative acknowledgement of her presence. Trainees began observing her movements with renewed attention, studying how she handled her weapon, how she navigated obstacles, and how she anticipated challenges. Serena's patch, visible now at the corner of her jacket, served as both a symbol of her skill and a quiet reminder that appearances could be deceptive. Each glance toward her was now tinged with curiosity and a hint of respect. During a brief lull in the drills, a few of the more confident trainees approached her cautiously, their posture wary, words measured. Serena," one began, voice slightly uncertain. I didn't realize." "That patch?" He trailed off, searching for the correct phrasing. Serena looked at him steadily, expression calm, allowing him the space to articulate his awe. "It means you've been recognized at the highest level for marksmanship," he continued finally, his voice still low. We underestimated you," Serena nodded, her reply simple, unembellished. "Skill speaks louder than words," she said. Her tone carried neither pride nor condescension, only truth. The instructors, observing this interaction, took note as well. They recognized the subtle shift occurring in the group dynamics. Confidence, once wielded as mockery by some trainees, was being replaced by cautious respect. Even those who had initially doubted her found themselves reassessing not just her abilities, but their own. Serena had achieved what few trainees could, the power to command attention and reshape perception through competence alone. The patch, once hidden, had become a catalyst for transformation. Later, during a combined drill of marksmanship and tactical movement, Serena's skills became even more apparent. She moved with calculated precision, seamlessly transitioning between targets, adjusting for distance and wind, all while maintaining awareness of her surroundings. Other trainees struggled to keep pace, some fumbling equipment or misjudging angles, while Serena executed each maneuver flawlessly. Her patch, visible beneath her jacket sleeve, seemed to radiate authority, a quiet but undeniable testament to her expertise. Every movement reinforced the realization. She was not just talented. She was elite. By midday, the training grounds had become a stage where perception and reality collided. The whispers of doubt from earlier days had faded, replaced by a growing sense of astonishment and respect. Trainees who had laughed at her arrival now exchanged glances, hesitant but curious, testing their assumptions against what they had witnessed firsthand. Serena remained focused, aware of the shift but undistracted. Her attention was on the exercises, on analyzing variables, and on maintaining flawless execution. The patch was not her boast, it was her silent credential, validating the skill that everyone could now see in action. During a brief break, one of the more senior trainees, a man with years of experience and numerous commendations, approached her with cautious respect. "I have to admit," he said, voice low so only she could hear, "I didn't think you could handle this. I underestimated you." Serena acknowledged him with a nod, her calm demeanor unbroken. "Perception is often flawed," she replied simply, her words carrying quiet authority. He nodded slowly, a flicker of admiration in his eyes, recognizing the rare combination of skill, composure, and humility she embodied. As the afternoon drills commenced, Serena continued to excel. Each task, from live fire targeting to rapid response scenarios, revealed layers of expertise that went far beyond basic training. Other trainees observed, sometimes mimicking her stance or timing, though many lacked the subtle precision that separated true mastery from average competence. The patch on her jacket remained visible now, no longer a secret, but a symbol of earned respect. It was a quiet proclamation that she had achieved a level of excellence few could rival, and the shift in the group dynamics was unmistakable. By the end of the day, the cumulative effect of her performance and the revelation of her patch transformed the training environment. Those who had mocked her had been humbled. Those who had doubted were reconsidering, and even the instructors recognized her extraordinary skill. Serena Blake had arrived under a cloud of skepticism and whispers. Yet by day's end, she stood as a figure commanding quiet respect. The laughter that had once accompanied her every step was replaced by thoughtful observation and acknowledgement. The patch, simple yet powerful, had done more than identify her as an elite marksman. It had become a symbol of quiet authority and undeniable skill. As night fell and the base settled into calm, Serena reflected on the day's events. The first moments of doubt had been transformed into recognition, and the social landscape of the training grounds had shifted irreversibly. She knew the real challenges were still ahead, and endurance, strategy, and mental fortitude would be tested in ways far more demanding than any single drill. Yet she also knew that the revelation of her patch and the skills it represented had fundamentally altered the narrative. From this point forward, she would be treated differently, not because of appearances, not because of gender, but because her ability demanded it. The whispered doubts that had shadowed her arrival had now been replaced with respect, curiosity, and an unspoken recognition of excellence. Serena Blake had achieved something rare. She had rewritten the perception of her peers without confrontation, argument, or boast. All that had been required was the quiet demonstration of skill, and the visible symbol of her mastery, the patch reading "Elite Marksman," had amplified the effect. It was proof that competence could dismantle prejudice, and that excellence, once revealed, commanded attention regardless of appearances. As she lay on her bunk that night, listening to the distant murmur of other trainees and the occasional shout from late-night exercises, Serena allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction. Today had been a triumph, not of ego, but of capability. The patch on her shoulder, now fully visible, was more than a badge. It was a quiet declaration of her journey, her discipline, and her potential. Tomorrow would bring new trials, unforeseen challenges, and even higher stakes. But tonight, she had proven that skill speaks louder than mockery, and that true ability can transform perception in ways that words alone never could. The morning air was thick with anticipation as Serena Blake arrived at the training grounds. The previous days had already set the tone. The whispers had shifted from ridicule to cautious respect. The revelation of her elite marksman patch had left a lasting impression. Today, however, would be different. Today, she would demonstrate that mastery was more than marksmanship. It extended to strategy, leadership, and mental acuity. The SEAL trainees, previously mocking, now watched her every move with heightened curiosity, some secretly wishing they could replicate her composure. The energy in the camp had transformed, subtle but undeniable. Serena was no longer a novelty. She was a challenge, a standard, a symbol of excellence. The day began with a series of tactical exercises designed to test not only physical endurance, but also mental agility. Trainees were split into small squads, each required to navigate a simulated hostile environment, identify potential threats, and execute coordinated maneuvers. Serena's squad was diverse. Men with impressive strength, seasoned tactical experience, and varying degrees of skepticism toward her leadership. Some still doubted whether a woman, especially one who had arrived wearing lipstick, could effectively guide them through high-stress scenarios. Serena didn't address these doubts. She simply began observing, cataloging individual strengths and weaknesses, and forming a plan. Leadership, she knew, was earned through competence, not assertion. As the squad moved toward the starting point, minor challenges arose almost immediately. One trainee misread a map, causing a slight detour. Another fumbled with equipment, dropping a simulated weapon. Serena's response was calm and precise. "We adjust. Stay alert and follow my lead," she instructed, her tone neutral yet authoritative. No sarcasm, no condescension, just clear direction. Her ability to maintain composure under pressure immediately began to shift the group dynamic. Men who had previously questioned her now focused intently on her guidance, realizing that effective leadership was rooted in calm decision-making rather than bravado. The first obstacle came in the form of a simulated river crossing, complete with strong currents and slippery banks. Trainees hesitated, assessing the risk, some muttering about the difficulty. Serena stepped forward first, calculating each step carefully, testing the current before guiding her squad across. "Move one at a time. Watch the footing. Keep your weight centered," she instructed, her voice carrying above the rush of water. The men followed, initially hesitant, but gradually gaining confidence as each crossed safely under her direction. It was a subtle victory, but significant. She had demonstrated not just tactical skill, but the ability to instill trust under pressure. The next challenge tested marksmanship under simulated threat conditions. Trainees were required to engage moving targets while maintaining cover and communication within their squad. Here, Serena's reputation preceded her. Her patch was visible, and the memory of her previous performance lent her an air of authority. She approached each target with calculated precision, guiding her squad through the proper stances, timing, and sighting techniques. Unlike the earlier days, when doubt had filled the air, her instructions were now met with attention and cooperation. Even the most skeptical members began to mirror her posture, timing, and breathing, recognizing that skill was contagious when paired with leadership. Midway through the exercise, a particularly complex scenario emerged. The squad encountered an unexpected obstacle, simulated ambush from multiple directions, requiring rapid decision-making and cohesive action. Chaos threatened to fracture the group, but Serena remained the calm center. She issued concise, clear commands, assigning targets, managing coverage, and repositioning her squad as necessary. Her mental map of the terrain, combined with her observational skills, allowed her to anticipate movements before they occurred. One trainee, previously critical of her presence, found himself relying on her guidance, executing orders with newfound respect. Serena's leadership had transformed skepticism into trust, doubt into reliance. By late morning, the exercises had grown in intensity. Endurance was tested alongside tactical competence, with squads required to transport equipment, traverse rugged terrain, and simulate complex combat scenarios. Serena moved seamlessly through each stage, balancing physical exertion with cognitive strategy. Her presence became a stabilizing force. Where chaos threatened, her clarity imposed structure. Trainees who had once questioned her capabilities now deferred to her judgment, recognizing the rare combination of precision, experience, and strategic foresight she exhibited. Respect was no longer tentative, it was earned, tangible, and quietly acknowledged in every glance and gesture from the squad. During a short break, some of the trainees approached Serena individually, their body language cautious but respectful. One man, a veteran with years of field experience, extended his hand. I misjudged you, he admitted, voice low. I thought you were? Well, not what we needed here. But you. You lead effectively. Serena nodded subtly, her response measured. Leadership is proven in action, not assumptions. Another trainee, younger and brash, chimed in, and you're shooting. Flawless. I underestimated that too. Serena allowed herself the faintest smile. Recognition was gratifying, but it was the shift in perception, the tangible transformation from doubt to trust, that truly mattered. The afternoon brought the most grueling exercise of the day, a multi-phase simulated combat scenario requiring split-second decisions, precise execution, and seamless coordination. Each squad was evaluated on tactical performance, accuracy, and teamwork. Serena's squad faced formidable challenges, simulated sniper fire, sudden ambush, and obstacles that demanded creative solutions. Yet every member of her squad, guided by her calm authority and strategic insight, executed flawlessly. Her patch, though subtle, was a symbol of earned expertise, reinforcing the credibility that had begun to replace prior skepticism. Even those who had previously doubted her ability now deferred to her judgment instinctively. As the final phase concluded, the instructors gathered all squads for debriefing. Serena's squad had performed exceptionally, not solely because of individual skill, but because of effective teamwork, strategy, and composure. The transformation in her peers was undeniable. Skeptics who had whispered and laughed now nodded in acknowledgement, some offering brief, quiet praise. The message was clear. Serena Blake was not just a capable trainee. She was a leader who had earned the respect of those around her through consistent demonstration of skill, judgment, and composure under pressure. The day concluded with a brief awards and recognition session. While no formal accolades were given yet, the subtle acknowledgement from instructors and peers was evident. Heads turned to watch Serena, not with amusement, but with a mixture of curiosity and admiration. Her influence was no longer passive. It actively shaped the environment. Where doubt had once lingered, there was now recognition. Where mockery had existed, there was now attentiveness. Serena had achieved something rare. She had altered the perception of her peers entirely, not through words, but through unwavering demonstration of competence and authority. As evening fell and the base quieted, Serena returned to her quarters. She reflected on the day's events, cataloging each success, noting every shift in group dynamics, and considering how to continue building trust and influence within her squad. Leadership, she knew, was a continuous process. It required patience, observation, and the consistent application of skill and judgment. The initial laughter and doubt had been transformed into respect, and that transformation was a powerful tool she would continue to wield as the training intensified. Before sleep, Serena reviewed her mental notes of the day. Each trainee's reactions, body language, and performance under pressure became part of her internal map, informing future strategy. She understood that earning respect in a team of elite trainees was not a one-time event. It was an ongoing process, achieved through consistency, competence, and quiet authority. The whispers of doubt had been replaced by acknowledgement, the initial amusement by reliance, and the superficial judgments by substantive recognition. Serena's thoughts lingered on the subtle power of perception. The patch she wore had been a catalyst, a quiet announcement of her skill. Yet it was her actions, her calm decision-making, and her ability to inspire trust that solidified respect. Today had proven a fundamental truth. Respect is earned through excellence, not appearance. Authority is commanded through skill, not status. The SEALs had once laughed at her lipstick, but now they had begun to see the truth. Beneath the subtle exterior lay unmatched competence, strategic brilliance, and the potential to lead under the most extreme circumstances. The day ended with quiet reflection. Serena lay on her bunk, listening to the distant sounds of the base, the soft murmurs of trainees, the clatter of gear, and the occasional shout from late-night exercises. She allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The journey had been arduous, the challenges significant, but she had achieved a milestone. She had earned the respect of her peers, not through confrontation or self-promotion, but through action, mastery, and quiet confidence. The path ahead would be even more demanding. Yet tonight, Serena Blake had proven that she was more than capable of meeting it. The pre-dawn darkness enveloped the SEAL training base, a cold, merciless cloak that hinted at the day's forthcoming trials. Serena Blake awoke before the alarm, her mind already rehearsing the challenges ahead. Today was the ultimate test, a full-scale survival and tactical exercise that combined endurance, marksmanship, strategy, and teamwork under simulated hostile conditions. Rumors had spread among the trainees that this phase would separate the truly elite from those merely competent. Serena, however, felt a familiar thrill rather than anxiety. This was the crucible she had trained for, and the knowledge that she could rely on her skills fueled her determination. The instructors, hardened veterans of combat and strategy, assembled the trainees in formation. Their faces were masks of stoic authority, voices low and commanding. Today's exercise will test everything you've learned, physically, mentally, and strategically, one said, eyes scanning the line of trainees. Survival, navigation, marksmanship, and decision-making under duress. Failure is not an option, and consequences are real. A murmur passed through the group, a mix of excitement and apprehension. Serena met their gaze steadily, her expression calm, reflecting neither fear nor doubt. She had anticipated the day's rigor and had already mapped potential strategies mentally. The trainees were issued minimal supplies, basic rations, water, and standard field gear, and tasked with navigating a treacherous landscape while avoiding simulated threats and completing objectives along the route. The terrain was brutal. Dense forests, jagged cliffs, rivers swollen from recent rains, and uneven ground that threatened injury at every misstep. The psychological component of the test was equally challenging. Trainees were monitored for stress responses, decision-making under pressure, and their ability to work cohesively in a team under extreme conditions. Serena assessed the field silently, noting vantage points, obstacles, and potential hazards. From the start, it was clear that this exercise would push the group to its limits. Trainees stumbled over roots, slipped on slick rocks, and struggled to maintain communication under physical strain. Panic and frustration began to surface, testing not only physical endurance, but also leadership dynamics. Serena moved deliberately, guiding her squad with calm precision. Keep formation tight. Eyes forward. Anticipate hazards before they appear, she instructed. Her voice was steady, authoritative, yet devoid of condescension, a subtle balance that inspired confidence. Trainees who had previously questioned her competence now followed her lead instinctively. The first major obstacle was a swollen river crossing, treacherous and fast-moving. Several trainees hesitated, weighing the risk of wet gear or injury. Serena stepped forward, testing the current carefully before signaling the squad to proceed one at a time. Maintain balance, keep your weight centered, and focus on the next foothold, she instructed. Each member moved under her guidance, some trembling, but all managing to navigate safely. The crossing was more than a physical test. It was a demonstration of trust. The squad had learned to rely on Serena's judgment, and that reliance would be crucial as challenges intensified. Once across, the team faced a series of ambush simulations. Instructors, hidden among the trees, fired blanks from concealed positions, forcing trainees to react under stress while maintaining situational awareness. Many faltered initially, panicked by unexpected threats. Serena's reaction, was instantaneous and precise. She signaled directions, assessed cover, and coordinated suppressive fire with flawless timing. Her squad moved cohesively, responding as a unit rather than as individuals. Every decision she made reinforced trust and confidence. The patch on her shoulder, Elite Marksman, had become more than symbolic. It was a tangible reminder that experience and mastery were guiding their actions. As the morning progressed, exhaustion began to affect the trainees. Fatigue slowed movements, sapped focus, and challenged morale. Some questioned their own ability to continue. Others grew frustrated with the slow pace of navigation. Serena, however, remained composed. She encouraged her team, offering concise advice and occasional corrections, ensuring efficiency without diminishing their autonomy. Her approach was subtle, yet powerful. She was a leader not by decree, but through example and competence. The trainees' earlier skepticism had dissolved entirely. Admiration, trust, and reliance had taken its place. A particularly dangerous segment of the course required the squad to ascend a steep cliff, carrying both gear and simulated injured team members. The terrain was unforgiving, loose rocks threatening slips, and the physical exertion pushed even the fittest trainees to their limits. Serena led the climb, carefully monitoring each member. Anchor yourself. Use your legs, not just your arms. Move deliberately, she instructed. Her own movements were precise and efficient, demonstrating both technique and endurance. As trainees followed, they began to understand the importance of controlled, deliberate action under stress, a principle Serena embodied fully. Midway through the climb, one trainee lost footing, sliding dangerously toward a ledge. Serena reacted instantly, extending a hand while signaling others to stabilize the line. Hold your balance. Focus on your core, she commanded. The trainee recovered, shaken but unharmed. The moment illustrated Serena's ability to combine rapid tactical response with calm leadership. Her skill and foresight saved not just efficiency, but lives, a tangible demonstration that competence extends beyond personal excellence to the well-being of the team. Once the cliff was surmounted, the squad continued through dense forest terrain toward the extraction point. Simulated enemy fire and sudden environmental hazards tested their ability to maintain vigilance while navigating obstacles. Serena's strategic insight became increasingly evident. She chose routes that minimized exposure while maximizing line of sight for her squad, ensuring safety without sacrificing progress. Her observations extended beyond immediate threats. She anticipated potential ambush points, identified terrain features that could provide cover, and adjusted movement speed to maintain squad cohesion. By mid-afternoon, the team faced a complex tactical scenario combining navigation, marksmanship, and coordination under fatigue. Targets moved unpredictably, obstacles required immediate adaptation, and every decision carried consequences. Serena excelled in every aspect. Her sharpshooting remained flawless, her coordination with the squad seamless, and her judgment under pressure impeccable. Other trainees struggled to maintain composure, some making errors that cost time or efficiency. Serena's calm precision contrasted sharply with the faltering efforts of others, further cementing her authority. The trust her squad placed in her guidance had become implicit, a silent acknowledgement of her mastery. The final phase required extraction under simulated enemy pursuit. The team had to traverse difficult terrain while protecting high-value personnel, simulated, and maintaining stealth. Panic could have easily disrupted coordination, but Serena's leadership ensured cohesion. She communicated through concise hand signals and low-toned verbal commands, guiding her squad with unwavering focus. The extraction was executed flawlessly. The instructors, observing from vantage points, nodded subtly, acknowledging the precision, foresight, and teamwork demonstrated. Serena had not only excelled individually, but had elevated her entire squad's performance through leadership and competence. As night approached and the exercise concluded, exhaustion and elation mingled in the air. The trainees gathered at the assembly point, muddy, bruised, and physically drained, yet transformed in perception. Where once doubt and skepticism had prevailed, there was now admiration and respect. Trainees who had previously questioned Serena's abilities approached her cautiously, offering acknowledgement or quiet congratulations. Her performance had silenced remaining whispers of doubt. Her competence, strategic foresight, and leadership had established her as not just a peer, but a guiding presence. Later, in the debriefing, instructors highlighted performance metrics, praising not only efficiency and marksmanship, but also teamwork and leadership. Serena's squad was noted repeatedly for cohesion, composure, and tactical precision, with particular emphasis on her leadership. Comments included exceptional awareness and decision-making, and leadership under stress exemplary. Even those previously critical of her presence acknowledged her unique capability. The patch on her shoulder, Elite Marksman, was no longer a hidden emblem. It was a visible, undeniable testament to excellence, now matched by leadership and strategic mastery. As Serena returned to her bunk that night, she reflected on the grueling exercise. The ultimate test had not been solely physical, nor solely tactical. It had been the synthesis of skill, strategy, endurance, and composure under pressure. Every challenge had been met with precision, and the transformation of her peers' perception was complete. She had arrived as an underestimated outsider, and by the end of the day, she had become a leader in the truest sense, commanding respect not through words, but through action. The night was quiet, save for the occasional distant shout or rustle of equipment. Serena lay on her bunk, exhausted but satisfied, reviewing every decision, every observation, and every adjustment she had made during the day. Leadership was not merely about guiding others. It was about maintaining composure, inspiring trust, and executing flawlessly when it mattered most. The ultimate test had been passed, not only by her, but through her influence on the squad. Respect had been earned, authority demonstrated, and perception forever altered. In the darkness, Serena allowed herself a rare smile. The SEALs had once doubted her, laughed at her lipstick, and questioned her capability. Now, they had witnessed a level of skill and leadership few could match. The patch on her shoulder was more than symbolic. It was a badge of earned excellence. The ultimate test had proven what she had always known. True mastery is revealed in action, composure under pressure, and the ability to elevate those around you. Serena Blake had not just survived the crucible, she had transformed it into a testament to her talent, resilience, and quiet authority. The following morning dawned with a crisp, golden light spilling over the training grounds. The air carried the subtle scent of wet earth from a night of rain, mixed with the metallic tang of spent shells and gear oil. Serena Blake stepped onto the grounds, her presence calm, deliberate, and quietly commanding. The events of the previous day, the grueling ultimate test, had already begun to reshape the perception of her among the SEAL trainees. What had once been whispered doubts and laughter was now replaced with cautious observation, respect, and, in some cases, awe. Today would further solidify that transformation. The morning's exercise began with a simulated urban combat scenario, designed to test communication, quick thinking, and precision under pressure. Trainees were divided into teams and tasked with clearing buildings, identifying threats, and coordinating movement in a complex environment. Serena's squad had already demonstrated extraordinary cohesion, trust, and skill under pressure, and she sensed the subtle change in her teammates. Men who had initially dismissed her capabilities now looked to her for guidance, watching each move, listening intently to every instruction, and following her lead without hesitation. As the squad approached the first building, A group of men whispered among themselves, clearly still reconciling their astonishment with lingering disbelief. "I didn't think she could handle the cliff yesterday," one admitted quietly. "But she led us perfectly." Another added, "Yeah, and that patch? It's no joke. She's the real deal." Serena overheard, but didn't react outwardly. She didn't need to. Their newfound respect was evident in their attentive posture, precise movements, and the unquestioning execution of her commands. The transformation in perception was complete, but Serena understood that consistency was the key to maintaining it. Inside the first building, trainees encountered multiple simulated threats. The chaos of gunfire, shouts, and obstacles tested their focus and composure. Serena moved with meticulous precision, guiding her squad through each room, anticipating angles of attack, and positioning her teammates strategically. Her awareness of the environment was comprehensive. Doors, windows, cover points, and potential enemy positions were analyzed and utilized flawlessly. Each command she issued was clear, concise, and actionable, earning not just obedience, but trust. For the first time, every member of her squad moved as one cohesive unit, responding instinctively to her guidance. The observers stationed throughout the training course noted the transformation as well. Instructors exchanged glances, impressed by the seamless cohesion of the squad and Serena's calm authority. One grizzled veteran muttered under his breath, "She's not just skilled, she elevates everyone around her." Another nodded, noting that the squad's precision, efficiency, and strategic awareness were unmatched. The difference between Serena and her peers was now undeniable. The patch on her shoulder, elite marksman, was no longer a curiosity. It was a visible testament to both skill and credibility, reinforced by her flawless leadership. As the exercise progressed, the squad encountered simulated casualties and obstacles that required rapid adaptation. Trainees were forced to improvise solutions, coordinate movement under duress, and make split-second decisions. Serena's guidance was precise, unwavering, and effective. When one trainee hesitated, she intervened subtly, offering clear instruction and confidence without condescension. When another panicked under simulated gunfire, she repositioned him calmly, maintaining control and focus. Every action reinforced her authority and skill, gradually erasing any remnants of doubt or skepticism. By mid-morning, the team faced a complex simulated hostage scenario. They were tasked with locating and extracting hostages while neutralizing threats in an urban environment. Tension ran high, and errors could result in failure. Serena approached the scenario analytically, breaking it down into manageable components while maintaining situational awareness. She assigned roles based on individual strengths, communicated concise strategies, and anticipated potential complications. Her squad executed flawlessly, moving with confidence, precision, and cohesion. Even previously critical trainees admitted internally that her leadership had made success possible. During a brief pause in the exercise, several trainees approached Serena individually, their expressions a mix of awe and respect. "I underestimated you," one confessed quietly. "Your leadership, your strategy, it's incredible." Another nodded, adding, "And the way you stay calm under pressure, it's inspiring." "I've never seen anything like it." Serena acknowledged them with a measured nod, her response neutral yet meaningful. Respect is earned through action, not assumption. Observation and execution are the foundations of credibility. Her words, calm but precise, further reinforced her authority, subtly reminding her squad that her skill and composure were constants to be relied upon. The final portion of the exercise involved a high-stakes extraction under simulated hostile fire. The terrain was uneven, obstacles abounded, and fatigue tested even the fittest trainees. Serena's leadership became the linchpin of success. She maintained composure, guided her squad through cover, coordinated suppressive fire, and ensured everyone maintained focus and cohesion. Mistakes were minimized, decisions were calculated, and execution was flawless. Observers noted the transformation. The same squad that had once doubted her ability now operated as a seamless, highly effective team under her command. By afternoon, the results were evident. The squad had completed every objective with precision, efficiency, and strategic insight. Trainers praised their performance, highlighting Serena's leadership as a key factor. Outstanding cohesion and execution, one instructor noted. Your ability to maintain composure and lead under pressure elevates everyone around you. The acknowledgement was more than formal praise. It was validation of Serena's transformation from an underestimated newcomer into a respected, trusted, and influential presence within the team. Even the most skeptical trainees were visibly changed. Men who had initially mocked her now mirrored her movements, listened intently to instructions, and sought guidance without hesitation. Her patch, Elite Marksman, was more than a symbol of technical skill. It had become an emblem of credibility, trust, and leadership. What had once been laughter and doubt had transformed into respect, reliance, and a subtle admiration that permeated every interaction. The shift in perception was complete. Serena had redefined the narrative through consistent excellence, composure, and strategic foresight. During the debriefing, instructors highlighted not only the squad's tactical performance, but also the intangible elements Serena had demonstrated: leadership, focus, and the ability to inspire trust. She doesn't just execute skills, she elevates those around her, one remarked. That's rare. She's a force multiplier. The words underscored the full scope of her impact. Competence alone had drawn attention, but her ability to influence and guide others had earned profound respect. The patch on her shoulder, visible and undeniable, validated every observation. As the day drew to a close, Serena's mind reflected on the journey so far. She had arrived at the SEAL training base underestimated, her appearance judged superficially, her skill questioned. Through marksmanship, endurance, strategic insight, and leadership, she had reshaped the perception of every trainee around her. The whispers of doubt had been replaced by admiration, respect, and trust. The laughter at her lipstick had long faded, eclipsed by acknowledgement of her extraordinary abilities and influence. Evenings at the base were quiet yet reflective, and Serena took full advantage of the moments alone. She cataloged observations, assessed team dynamics, and refined mental strategies. Respect, she knew, had been earned through consistent, flawless execution, but sustaining it required ongoing demonstration of capability and integrity. Her patch, Elite Marksman, was no longer a hidden emblem. It was a visible representation of earned authority, silently reinforcing her credibility and inspiring confidence in her squad. By the time night fully descended, the camp settled into near silence, punctuated only by distant activity or occasional calls from late-night drills. Serena lay on her bunk, absorbing the day's lessons and victories. She had transformed perception in a team of elite trainees, replacing doubt with respect, mockery with trust, and underestimation with acknowledgement. The ultimate reward was not personal recognition, but the ability to influence, guide, and inspire her peers. She had proven that competence and composure were more powerful than assumptions, and that leadership earned through action commanded lasting respect. The journey was far from over, yet the transformation of perception was complete. Serena Blake had arrived as an underestimated newcomer, her lipstick once a symbol of superficiality in the eyes of others. By the power of skill, calm under pressure, strategic insight, and quiet leadership, she had become indispensable, respected, and admired. The patch on her shoulder, Elite Marksman, was a constant reminder of the journey she had undertaken and the unyielding standard she now set for herself and those around her. The dawn broke over the sealed training base with a fiery orange glow, illuminating the hard-earned terrain of triumph and challenge. Today marked the final phase of the course, a culmination of months of grueling training, relentless tests, and high-stakes exercises. For Serena Blake, it was more than a test of skill. It was the final opportunity to solidify the respect, trust, and acknowledgement she had painstakingly earned. The patch on her shoulder, Elite Marksman, gleamed subtly beneath her uniform, a silent emblem of mastery. Yet she knew it was her actions, not the symbol, that would define her legacy. The instructors assembled all trainees in formation. Their eyes, seasoned by years of combat and training, scanned each individual, assessing posture, confidence, and readiness. Serena's calm demeanor stood out immediately. No fidgeting, no hesitation, only a composed, deliberate presence that radiated quiet authority. The men around her, once skeptical and mocking, now mirrored her focus and composure. The whispers that had followed her for days had long ceased, replaced by quiet observation and subtle nods of respect. Her transformation from underestimated newcomer to respected leader was complete, but today demanded proof beyond doubt. The final exercise was a multi-phase operation designed to test endurance, strategy, marksmanship, and leadership under extreme pressure. Trainees were divided into squads, each tasked with navigating a vast and challenging terrain, neutralizing threats, executing complex objectives, and ensuring team cohesion under simulated hostile conditions. The landscape was unforgiving. Steep cliffs, thick forests, fast-flowing rivers, and unpredictable weather. Fatigue was already setting in from previous exercises, yet Serena's presence inspired confidence. Her squad moved efficiently, each member relying on her judgment, precision, and calm authority to guide them through the grueling course. From the outset, it was clear that challenges would push both physical and mental limits. Simulated ambushes erupted without warning, requiring rapid decision-making and flawless execution. Trainees faltered, some panicking under the stress, yet Serena's squad remained cohesive. She moved with deliberate precision, issuing concise commands while simultaneously monitoring every environmental detail. Her ability to anticipate threats, adjust strategy on the fly, and maintain squad cohesion was extraordinary. Where others hesitated, she acted. Where confusion threatened, she instilled clarity. Respect, trust, and reliance were evident in every movement of her team. Midway through the exercise, the squad faced a particularly perilous obstacle, a river swollen with rainwater, fast and unpredictable. Trainees hesitated, weighing the risk of crossing. Serena assessed the situation with practiced precision, identifying secure footholds, calculating weight distribution, and estimating the current's velocity. Move carefully, one at a time. Keep your center of gravity low and eyes focused on the next step, she instructed. Her squad followed without hesitation, executing the crossing flawlessly. The action was more than a physical success. It was a testament to the trust and confidence her leadership had cultivated. As the day wore on, simulated enemy fire and environmental hazards increased in complexity. Each scenario tested not only technical skill, but composure under extreme pressure. Trainees who had previously doubted her presence now relied on her instinctively, following hand signals, voice commands, and subtle cues with unwavering confidence. Serena's leadership had become intrinsic to the squad's performance. Her guidance was not questioned, but integrated seamlessly into every decision. Her calm authority created an environment where skill flourished, mistakes were minimized, and cohesion thrived. A critical phase required the squad to perform a high-stakes hostage extraction while under simulated sniper fire. Precision, coordination, and split-second decision-making were essential. Serena approached the scenario analytically, breaking it into manageable tasks while maintaining situational awareness. She assigned roles, positioned teammates strategically, and executed the plan flawlessly. Each action reinforced her authority and skill, demonstrating that leadership was not merely about issuing commands, but about enhancing the performance of those around her. Every member of her squad performed with excellence, elevated by her presence. The culmination of the day's exercises was a rapid extraction under extreme conditions. The terrain was uneven and treacherous, fatigue was overwhelming, and simulated enemy forces threatened at every turn. Serena led with unwavering composure, coordinating suppressive fire, navigating obstacles, and ensuring every team member maintained focus and cohesion. Mistakes were rare. Efficiency and precision defined every movement. Observers, including instructors and previously skeptical trainees, noted the transformation. Serena's squad operated as a unit, moving with cohesion, confidence, and impeccable coordination. Her influence had become inseparable from their success. By late afternoon, the exercises concluded. The instructors gathered all squads for the final debriefing. Serena's team had not only completed every objective with precision, but had done so with exceptional teamwork, strategic foresight, and composure. Instructors highlighted her leadership repeatedly. Her ability to maintain focus, guide her team, and execute under pressure is extraordinary, one remarked. She doesn't just excel individually, she elevates everyone around her. The acknowledgement was formal, but also deeply resonant. It validated not only her technical mastery, but the intangible qualities that had transformed the perception of those around her. The shift among her peers was palpable. Men who had once dismissed her abilities now sought her advice, mirrored her approach, and spoke of her with respect and admiration. The laughter at her appearance, the skepticism of her arrival, all had vanished. Serena had redefined expectations and proven that skill, composure, and quiet authority were more powerful than superficial judgments. The patch on her shoulder, Elite Marksman, was no longer a hidden emblem, but a visible symbol of earned excellence, reinforcing the credibility and leadership she had demonstrated throughout training. Evenings at the base were reflective, and Serena used the time to consolidate her experiences. She cataloged observations, assessed team dynamics, and prepared mentally for future challenges. Leadership, she understood, was continuous. It required consistent demonstration of skill, judgment, and integrity. Respect, once earned, needed to be maintained through ongoing performance. Yet tonight, the culmination of months of effort was undeniable. She had arrived underestimated, dismissed by appearances, yet she was leaving as a trusted, respected, and influential presence within the team. The final recognition came during the ceremonial assembly at the end of the course. Instructors acknowledged the exceptional performances, with particular attention to those who had demonstrated leadership, skill, and influence. Serena's name was highlighted repeatedly, her accomplishments praised, her impact on her squad underscored. Trainees and instructors alike recognized that her journey had been extraordinary, from doubt and mockery to mastery and leadership, culminating in a transformation of perception that few could achieve. The patch on her shoulder, once a quiet symbol, now represented a legacy secured through action and excellence. After the formal assembly, Serena's squad gathered quietly. The atmosphere was a mix of exhaustion, pride, and quiet camaraderie. Men who had once questioned her abilities now expressed admiration, gratitude, and trust. "You set the standard for all of us," one said quietly, voice tinged with sincerity. Another added, "We learned more from following you than from any instructor." Serena acknowledged them with a calm nod, her demeanor composed yet warm. Leadership, she knew, was validated not through recognition alone, but through the impact made on those who followed. The night settled over the base, quiet except for distant activity and occasional movements of guards and night exercises. Serena lay on her bunk, reflecting on the journey. She had faced doubt, mockery, and underestimation. Yet she had persevered, demonstrating that skill, composure, and strategic insight were the ultimate arbiters of respect. The seals had laughed at her lipstick, questioned her ability, and underestimated her presence. Through consistent excellence, calm leadership, and relentless determination, she had not only silenced doubt, but had established a lasting legacy within the team. Her thoughts lingered on the subtle yet profound transformation that had occurred. Respect had been earned through action, trust had been cultivated through consistent demonstration of competence, and perception had been reshaped through quiet authority. The patch on her shoulder, Elite Marksman, was more than a badge. It was a testament to her journey, her discipline, and her influence. She had arrived underestimated, yet she would leave as a figure whose presence commanded acknowledgement, whose guidance inspired confidence, and whose legacy would endure within the SEAL ranks. As she drifted to sleep, Serena Blake allowed herself a moment of satisfaction, not in pride, but in the knowledge that she had proven what skill, composure, and leadership could accomplish. The journey had been arduous, the challenges immense, yet she had emerged transformed, and in turn, she had transformed the perception of everyone around her. The SEALs who had once doubted her were now allies, teammates, and witnesses to a standard of excellence few could match. The ultimate lesson was clear. True mastery and leadership are revealed through consistent action, unwavering composure, and the ability to elevate others. Serena's legacy was secured not through appearance, not through words, but through competence, courage, and quiet authority. The patch on her shoulder was now emblematic of more than skill. It was a symbol of respect, influence, and the profound impact one individual can have when dedication, discipline, and resilience are combined. The SEALs had laughed at her lipstick once, but by the end, they recognized the truth. Serena Blake was extraordinary, a mark of elite mastery, and a leader whose influence would endure far beyond the training grounds.